Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast, joined, as always, by the loyal Labrador, the Senator, Phil Perry. You know, on Tuesdays, at this portion of the season, Phil usually takes Tuesday off because it's a player's day off. We have conference calls, but he always bangs in, for instance, on the coach conference calls, Zooms, and he'll make his way in to do a podcast with me. So it's eternally appreciated because he busts his ass. And Phil, what I want to get into here is Bill O'Brien's conference call today. I thought he was outstanding, great candor, exactly what we're looking for a team that's 2-9 and is turtling on itself.
First of all, Tom, you do something you'd love, you never work a day in your life. But I agree with you. I've loved the way he's handled these press conferences all year. Because he does it with the confidence of a guy who's been a head coach. And so there's not that fear factor that there are with some other Bill Belichick assistants. Ooh, if I go into some detail, if I give a little bit of insight on, for instance, why Mac Jones threw a pick, is Bill going to bring me in? Is he going to be pissed? That really doesn't exist with him, while at the same time, he makes it very clear where the chain of command sits and where he sits on that chain of command.
Living on that chain of command as the offensive coordinator, presiding, unfortunately for him and for us and for everybody in the area, over the most inept offense in professional football. We had plenty of questions for Bill. First one was, what will the approach be at quarterback this week?
I think it'll be the same as last week relative to going to the week. And, let's do a good job this week of, installing a good game plan, teaching it to the players, and then the players going out there and executing it on the practice field. That's, really, really what it comes down to.
Now it could change. We don't know at this point what Bill Belichick's going to decide to do. I speculated on early edition last night that he's kind of just got palms to the sky, shoulders up to the ears, and he's saying to himself, what's it really matter? Because when you look at splitting reps at the quarterback position, when it did matter to the Patriots, and they were a 5-5 football team in 2001, and you were deciding between Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe as Bledsoe came back from injury, they split reps going into a Rams game. Again, different time, different quarterbacks, different coach at that juncture. But eventually, after losing that Rams game, the Patriots went with Brady the rest of the way, and football history ensued. But in 2019, Bill looked back and spoke to NFL Network and said, well, I don't know how anyone could have been ready to play in a game when they're only getting a portion of the reps. So that existed in 2001, and it existed in 2019. Yet now, after splitting reps last week, and the reps were split between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe, regardless if Bill Belichick is talking about on Monday, the majority of the reps. So what's that, 52-48? Even if it's 60-40, which I doubt it was, it's splitting reps. So Phil, to me, we're looking at this split reps and the ambiguity as to who is going to start. And again, that was a crock, which I'd like to have you address as well. This notion that Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott knew all week. Didn't deduce it. They knew all week that people in the media are running with now. This idea that, hey, you guys were wrong all week. They weren't splitting reps. Mac got the majority and the whole team knew. Let's hit that. That's a crock. It's, again, we're rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic here, but it's a crock.
Yeah, I think there is you bring up a good word, which is deducing. There's a difference between deducing and knowing. There's a difference between assuming and knowing, guessing and knowing. And, I even asked players late last week after 3 practices, if you had to guess, these are players that would say to me, listen, I can't tell you. I don't know. I do not know. On the record or off.
Multiple players who you trust and who are veterans.
Starters that I trust that are veterans. I don't know. And I asked for guesses. And a couple of them did guess that Mac Jones would be the guy. And it was because he was typically the first up. And also because Bill Belichick didn't make the plan apparent to anyone. So if the coach doesn't say anything and the first guy is still the first guy, even if he's basically splitting the reps relatively evenly in practice, and there is a question there, then you assume or you guess that Mac remains the guy. But
Which is
I can just tell you,
it's
yeah.
interesting when you think about it. The game went exactly like practice. Mac went first, got half. Bailey went second. He got half. That's basically how the week of practice went. Sorry, Phil.
And there were reports before the game that, Bailey Zappe could very well play. Mike Garafolo from NFL Network saying, expect Bailey Zappe to be in the mix. Was that because the Patriots were assuming that Mac Jones wouldn't play well? And so they were comfortable telling members of the media that Bailey Zappe's probably going to play today? Or was that the plan all along? Was it the Chicago Bears on Monday night at Gillette Stadium all over again? Where my understanding was that the plan that day was for both guys to play. And Bill Belichick, I think, eventually relented and gave that up after the fact. But I can just tell you going in, important people on the offensive side of the ball were not clear as to what the plan was at quarterback until game day.
Not just players either, right?
Yeah. And I lean more toward, what Hunter Henry said, what Juju Smith-Schuster told me after the game, what other players were willing to tell me privately, just they didn't know the plan. And Tom, I think one more thing just to add to this that is important to note, and Matthew Slater actually referenced it in his conference call with reporters on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Bill wasn't taking the temperature of the locker room on a decision like this. He wasn't going to his leaders and asking, what do you guys think? Who are you going to respond to better on game day? What do you think I should do here? What should be the decision at this important position that affects all others? Didn't happen. And so even those players that you would think would have a really good idea as to who'd be starting were in the dark until Sunday.
Yeah, and a lot was based that this notion of, Bill actually didn't split reps and everybody knew it was Mac. So the media was duped and they ran with a false narrative. That's fed by Mark Daniels speaking to Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott, neither of whom expressed how they knew. Now, Matt Slater said no one was told, and Hunter Henry said no one was told, but the two of them just seemed to, after the game, decide that, oh yeah, we knew. Well, I know things are going to happen around this team too, but until they happen, I don't know. I was pretty sure Mac was going to start, despite the fact that, you could tell that they were splitting reps and there was no commitment made. And I thought Will friggin' Greer, who got cut, might get a shot. So to me,
Tom, maybe that's their truth, right? Maybe that's Ezekiel Elliott's truth in his mind until Bill Belichick says something otherwise. The starters are the starters. And so that's in my own brain. I know that Mac Jones is the starter until I'm told otherwise. But let's take the opinions of others, and hold them up as well. And that's all I'm trying to share is there is a large chunk of the locker room. There's a large chunk of the coaching staff that didn't know late Friday who was going to be the starting quarterback of the team.
And the reason this is even pertinent now isn't because of the split reps and exactly how many. The reason is we're going into a period, and we've been in a period where reporting on this team is vital, and to have people casting doubt on whether or not we're accurate with our reporting when we are continually more accurate than the people outside this organization generally are. I'll use Ian Rappaport as a for instance. After he reported that Bill Belichick was locked up long-term and had signed a new multi-year contract, it took me 15 minutes to establish that his contract ends in 2024. It took me a little longer to deduce that Bill actually expired in 2022 and he got a new 2-year contract. Now Ian's on he's up in 2024. But we had to listen to it for 3 or 4 days. Local media got pantsed, huh? Rapp had it. Long-term extension. And in 15 minutes, we were able to establish what that was. So the toothpaste sometimes has to get stuffed back in the tube, which with the splitting reps, it's important to do because we didn't get a freaking run.
And it sounds like they might do it again. I mean,
that's the point. Yeah, let's get to that. And if he's going to do it again, Phil, let's get back to the palms upturned to the sky, shoulders near the ears. What am I supposed to do? And to me, that hints at it is what it is. And I said on Early Edition, it has a feeling of I don't care anymore. That's overstating it. It's like I don't care as in what's it matter. Of course, he cares about winning the games, but he's looking at his offense and go, what am I supposed to do? There's nothing to do that's going to cause them to win me this football game. Yes?
And I also look at it, and I do look at one thing that Bill Belichick said during the week when we were peppering him with these quarterback questions. One thing that he said was, I hope whoever's out there will be able to execute what we're asking them to execute. What they asked these quarterbacks to execute on Sunday was a joke. I mean, when you look at the average depth of target for Bailey Zappe being 2.3 yards down the field, and the number of throws that were targeted behind the line of scrimmage, because it's all screens, it's all quick games, it's RPOs. This is not an NFL offense. It wasn't what they trotted out there on Sunday. It's either they don't trust the quarterbacks to run a real offense, they don't trust the offensive line to protect for a real passing game, or in the few moments where they do run true drop back passes, NFL caliber pass plays, the quarterbacks perform so poorly that everyone gets gun shy and they don't do it again.
Let's listen
So maybe, Tom, maybe that's just to get to put a bow on it with the practice thing. If Bill's saying, listen, we're running a high school offense here anyway. Does anybody really need, this is different than Brady Bledsoe. Does anybody really need a full complement of practice reps here if we're just asking you to throw it sideways 20 times in this game?
Yep.
I mean, like, that might be how he's looking at it as well.
And Bill O'Brien, again, thanking him for his candor. He actually detailed the 2 Mac interceptions, explained what happened on them. Here's Bill O'Brien saying what went wrong on those plays, which goes to Phil's point.
The one play where he threw the first interception, there was a protection breakdown. He's got to make a better decision there to throw the ball out of bounds. We have to do a better job of protecting, designing the protection, executing the protection. I'm just being real with you. Then the next interception, we were basically in a situation where they brought an extra guy, and we got to get the ball out. We got to make a good decision, or we got to take the sack. So in that situation, in both those situations, he would probably be the first to tell you that he's got to make a better decision.
Before you hit us on that, I'm going to throw another Bill O'Brien soundbite at you, because if you're making those mistakes and you have just basically 1 + 1 = 2 reads in front of you, well, then you can't execute it. Your confidence might be shot. Bill O'Brien was asked about Mac Jones' confidence level.
I think what I see is that he's a very bright guy. He works very hard. He's passionate about the game. Things haven't gone great for him this year. I don't think that he's the number one guy to blame. If you want to blame anybody, blame me. I'm the one that designs it, and it's not going very well. So, look, at the end of the day, can he execute better? Are there things that he can do better? Sure. But there's things that all of us have to do better to, put a winning product on the field. And right now, that's not what it is. So I think what I see is a very confident guy that is a very bright guy, very hardworking guy that'll continue to work hard and try to improve on the things he needs to improve on.
Just be prepared. We're going to lean heavy on O'Brien. It's an O'Brien heavy phone call, folks. Podcast. What's your reaction to the transparency of the mistakes, and then Bill saying, "Hey, blame me"?
Yeah, I think he's trying to take a little bit off of Mac Jones. And I mean, how much can you realistically remove in terms of the attention paid to how poorly he's played? I don't know. But by detailing, well, we had a protection breakdown on the first one. And yes, Mac Jones should have thrown it away, but it starts there. It's not just Mac Jones on that play. Well, we've got to get the ball out quickly, or he needs to take a sack there. I think without saying it and without using Pop Douglas's name, he's inferring that Douglas should have turned around a little bit more quickly than he did when he sees a free rusher buzz right by his ear hole.
I know.
I mean, I know he's a rookie. And I know he's in he's in a spot that he's not usually playing, right? He's playing third down back, essentially.
Was he supposed to chip him? I'm like, what the frig?
And so, he's trying to make it clear it's not one guy. It's on the coordinator. It's on the receivers at times. It's on the line at times. And yes, the quarterback makes mistakes too. But let's not all sit here and say this is a Mac Jones and Mac Jones only disaster.
They love to feast on Mac with free rushers at this point, don't they? Every team knows. It's just like, again, I come back to pick up basketball a lot. My move, because I don't like to run out at people shooting threes because it's too much work, I just yell short, I'm trying to get them to shoot it long, short, whatever. They know, because if I know the guy's going to melt on that, then I'll do that. Mac melts on free rushers.
Head
Doesn't
games.
all come back to basketball. I got basketball in the brain. It's getting to that season. Phil,
Can I just ask you really quickly, which NBA player are you most similar to in terms of your style of play?
Current?
Yeah. Or past. Somebody we would know.
Jeff Hornacek.
I like that. You kind of look like Jeff Hornacek.
Yeah, I'm a little like Horny. He used to do that before his free throws too. Smear his face like that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, he used to touch his.
Yeah, probably a little Jeff Hornacek. Not nearly as good a shooter. When I heat up, I can get going.
Why would you want more sweat on your hands before you shoot a basketball?
I think it was a signal to his family. Love you guys. All right, here's Bill O'Brien. And I think it's great that he was, gives us some intel on what in God's name happened on those throws. But I asked Bill O'Brien about his confidence in himself as he presides over an inept offense and how he proceeds forward.
I'm confident, Tom. I think that, there's a lot of things that come up in football that's unexpected. Expect the unexpected is kind of the way you have to live as a football coach. And, we feel very good going into every game about our game plan and how we practiced it. And then, many times it hasn't really played out that way. And, I do think that it's a collective effort that we all have to be better. Like, I don't think you can blame one player. You can't blame one person. And I don't think it is about blame. I think it's about football. And the teams that we've played have made less mistakes than we have offensively. And that's why we've lost. Now, we've had 2 blowouts. I get it. But I'm talking about the rest of the games have been very close games where we've turned it over and the other team, let's just say, has not turned it over or not turned it over as much. And, we haven't been able to finish drives where the other team has been able to finish drives, and we don't win those games. And I tell these guys all the time, Bill tells them all the time, it's an 8-9, 9-8 league. That's the way it's set up. It's set up to be that way. The draft rules, the free agency rules, all of the rules are set up for a balanced league. And right now we're on the lower half because we're not doing the little things necessary to win. We're not taking care of the ball. We're missing assignments. Maybe we're not making a great play call at the right time, whatever it is. And we have to really turn that around.
Phil, between that answer saying, look, the only difference between us and the teams that we've played, and he did allow, obviously, for those 2 blowout losses, but he said everything else pretty much a 1-score game. He's able to find a smoking gun on every one. It's not like the whole plane blew up. He's able to find one murder weapon, and it's Mac. But because of that fact and my belief, informed opinion that Bill O'Brien will be back here, at least at this point, that's the plan. Bill O'Brien will be back here next year. Again, no guarantees, but would Bill perceive Mac as fixable?
Boy, that's a great question, because as an offensive coordinator, former head coach, who I'm sure has a lot of confidence in his own ability to get competent play out of less than quarterbacks. I mean, how many times did we see it in Houston where that team won a bunch of games with a bunch of quarterbacks who did not inspire much confidence at the time, I'm sure, and certainly now looking back at those names. But I also wonder, Tom, if he's been so close to Mac now this year, and he understands just how hard a year it's been for Mac, and how much a fresh start in a new location might be helpful for Mac. It would surprise me. It would surprise me if Mac Jones is back with the team in 2024. How about you?
Yeah, I agree, but I also steadfastly believe that you do not sell your only car without having a new one in the driveway. So
what if you know what if you have a trip planned to the dealership and you're flush with cash? You still don't want to part with that car? You're still not willing to sell the car first and just Uber it over to the lot and buy yourself a new one?
It's a dice roll. You've got to draft someone or sign someone before you move on from Mac. And I would say that Mac's probably going to be with the team if they're not able to trade him. And who's going to trade for Mac Jones for more than maybe a 5th round pick? Probably not. 5th might be a stretch too. But if that's the case, you just keep him until April. move him during the draft once you've gotten your guy. So Mac Jones will be traded during draft night.
I'm going to look
I had a
something up
good-
right now. I'm going
Huh?
to look something up, and I promise I'm listening. It's not going to look on your camera like I'm listening, but I am listening. I'm just trying to see how Baker Mayfield wiggled his way out of Cleveland. Was he traded? Because I feel like there are some similarities there. Or did he
My
just
mind is a snow globe of quarterbacks. Brock Osweiler just moved across my brain as to Cleveland and Houston. Let's take a 20. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, I call them totals, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/NSBO and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling helpline, mass.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. All right, we're back in. Phil?
I got the Mayfield timeline here. The Browns actually picked up his 5th-year option following his 3rd season. So he was going into his 5th year when the Browns then traded for Deshaun Watson. He then asked for his release, or he asked to be traded, and he was traded to the Panthers for a 5th-round pick, a conditional 5th-round pick.
With a guaranteed contract for that year.
Yeah, for that 5th year. Yep.
Before we get to a little bit more on O'Brien, I want to ask you this. Since Mac is unusable at this juncture, I mean, it's the definition of insanity to keep doing the same thing over and over. They have to start Bailey Zappe. There's also the benefit of starting Bailey Zappe and giving him an extreme amount of run over the final 6 games, or until he shoots himself out of the position, to establish whether or not entering his 3rd year he's a suitable NFL backup, or could even be a spot starter, which we thought he was coming out of 2022. Hey, that guy could be a spot starter. That guy could, I don't want him quarterbacking my team all year. I wouldn't want to go into a camp with him, but I wouldn't feel bad about him being a spot starter. Now he's certainly not backup level. That's why I would argue Bailey Zappe for the next 5 games. You know what you got with Mac at this juncture. You got to figure out what you got with the other guy.
I like this point by you. And I would add to it, in order to find out if he can be a backup, you have to allow him to run an offense that's different than the one he ran at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. And it's not going to be easy because the competition is going to get tougher. And so even if you give him the next month, next 5-6 weeks, whatever it is, give him the rest of the season. In order to see if he has the goods to even be a number 2, you cannot be this, we throw it sideways and we throw it sideways alone, young Bailey. Do you understand me?
Exclusively lateral.
Because that's not a backup quarterback. You can't win that way. You become way too easy to defend. I think Bailey Zappe's pick, Tom, on Sunday was the result of the Patriots being incredibly easy to defend, meaning Xavier McKinney, who was playing free safety and watching a Patriots receiver run deep down the sideline in one-on-one coverage, didn't care, because somewhere in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking or hearing Wink Martindale from practices during the week saying, there is no way either of these guys is throwing it 45 plus yards down the field past us. And so Xavier, or whoever it is who's playing safety, you put your heels on about the 35 from the line of scrimmage, and that's as deep as you get in this game. And he made an incredible break, and I saw Greg Bedard compared to an Ed Reed type of play. I don't think Xavier McKinney is Ed Reed. I think Xavier McKinney is going up against a quarterback in an offense that is so limited that he's able to look like Ed Reed because he's able to play 4 steps ahead of what he typically would have to do against a normal offense and a normal quarterback. So see if Bailey Zappe can be something approaching a normal quarterback for the rest of the season. And yes, maybe you get to keep him as a number 2.
Knowing versus deducing. Wouldn't it be interesting to watch the incredible Patriots shrinking offense from the Eagles and Dolphins games and the spray chart that we see on Next Gen Stats, just see it retreat in on itself so that everything is within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
I think that's how black holes develop.
What is it?
I think that's how black holes develop. They're stars. They become so dense. They just start to close in on themselves. And then you've got the Patriots offense, black hole.
It's bleak, folks, but it's
not even light can escape the Patriots offense.
It is. It's our responsibility to ask questions. It's our responsibility to look forward. It's our responsibility to try and divine what's going to happen with this franchise. And as uncomfortable as it is to look at Bill Belichick, an individual who delivered and was the architect and developer, builder, and he hammered the nails too on the greatest dynasty in NFL history, we so too have to look at the crumbling structure around him and his responsibility in it, and also look at the fact that he's not coming back next year. It's speculation right now. Call it informed speculation. Bill's not coming back next year. I asked Bill O'Brien about the conversation swirling around the head coach and how it feels for somebody who has worked as closely as Bill O'Brien has worked with Bill, because there's obviously, for me, there's a streak of pain in doing this too, because I've covered the guy for 25 years. I've had a lot of laughs with the guy, not as many in the last 5 years post Brady. We had a blast before that though, but got a lot to be thankful for in covering this guy and this team. Here's what Bill O'Brien had to say when asked about Bill Belichick speculation.
Like, this is Bill Belichick we're talking about. Bill Belichick has done so much for the game of football, the New England Patriots organization. It's football. We've lost some tight games. To think about what he's done here in this organization, what he's done for this community, what he's done for this game, the game of football. He's been 50 years in the game of football. Just to me, like, I think everybody just needs to understand, look, we all got to win. We understand we're in a winning business. We're not winning right now, but, I think you also got to step back and just, hey, look at what this guy's done for the game of football. I think that's very important to think about.
Phil O'Brien articulates something there that I think we're all experiencing, that Bill Belichick, as opposed to Frank Reich or who else got poop canned? Never mind. Sean Payton, anybody. Tom Coughlin, anyone. Bill Belichick is still in a different stratosphere, even over other legends, and should be treated thusly, despite the ruins that are smoking around him.
Yeah, and listen, he does deserve different treatment from media, fans, ownership. I think he's gotten it.
He's getting it right now from ownership.
He's getting it from ownership, and maybe somebody listening to this and listening to you and me in particular say, I've heard you guys ask Bill Belichick questions in press conferences. What do you mean you're taking it easy on him? There is an element to there is still a job to do here. And so you're right. It's an uncomfortable position for people like you and me who have covered him for a long time. I haven't covered him as long as you have, but it's been 10 years. And I've had a lot of great conversations with him too. And I've had a good relationship with him at times for long periods of time with him as well. And so it is uncomfortable. It is strange. It's a position that I haven't been in before in terms of covering this team and its consistency as being a losing franchise over the last couple of years. But there's still an element of there are questions that need to be asked, and that's part of the gig too, and that leads to obvious tension. And as
cross purposes,
right? I mean, it's expected tension. It probably is on his end as well, especially when things are going the way they're going. And Tom, you just mentioned it's feeling inevitable that he's not going to be here. I'm sure Bill Belichick has to look at it similarly. Don't you think he probably feels as though he's not going to be here next year as well?
Yeah. It's just would be interesting to know how active he is in understanding that, accepting it, and while he's coaching this team, trying to figure out what he's doing next year, what his sons are doing next year, what the direction of this franchise that is part of him will be doing next year. And will he want this franchise that will be moving on from him to be set up for a level of success? Will he leave it in just the way it is? Or would he actively try to say, well, screw these guys. I'm not getting my security deposit back anyway. I'm not fixing that stuff. Meanwhile, speaking of that, that's all a decision that will be made by Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft. Bill O'Brien invoked Robert Kraft when asked about whether or not Bill O'Brien can give input on whether or not to sit Mac.
I don't make those calls. I don't think there's a chain of command, Karen. There's a chain of command. The chain of command is Mr. Kraft at the top. All right. Then it's Bill Belichick. And then I would say the assistant coaches are somewhere down in here.
So Phil, is O'Brien just given the flow chart, or is he shedding light onto the fact that, don't rule out Robert's involvement in this? Because I know that's what's going to be seized upon.
It is. And
Robert's
that's
got his hands on it.
That's the juicier of the two storylines, no doubt. And that does happen other places. No question. I don't think it's what's happening here. And so it's the former, in my opinion, of the two examples that you bring up. I think he's just giving the flow chart. I think he's just talking in generalities and just saying, acknowledging that this guy's everybody's boss. And probably somewhere in the back of his mind, him understanding this is the guy that led to my hire here because he wanted a real offensive coordinator after last year's mess. And so he understands. And the lines of communication are open there between Bill O'Brien and Robert Kraft. I'm sure we saw them talking on the sidelines before the game in Germany. I'm sure Robert Kraft has questions about specifically what's going on offensively. And I don't know what kind of answers he's getting from Bill Belichick. And so then where do you go next? Well, you go to the guy that's running the offense. So that's a tip of the cap to Robert that this is his football team. It's not Bill Belichick's football team. And then you go from there. I don't think it's him saying, though, Robert was in my office and he had me and Bill in meetings the last 3 weeks. And he said, we're starting Mac Jones. No questions asked. I don't want to hear otherwise. I don't believe that's what's happening.
No, because that horse is out of the barn and down the street. And as angry as Robert Kraft might get, and as pissed as he is at 2-9, I just think that letting sleeping dogs lie at this juncture is probably the best thing to do. And just we know what we're doing here. Let's just let it play itself out, as long as it's not damaging. But I could see a wanderer past and knock on the, hey, Bill, how good is Bailey really? Let's find out. I mean, I might. But again, that's the thing, is Robert Kraft is attuned to public perception. And if Bill goes out the door, what if there'll be a goodbye press conference? I doubt it. But if Bill goes out the door and says, yeah, I mean, getting advice from the owner, on who I should be starting late in the year. That's not what Robert Kraft wants to have going on. So if the tongue has been bitten for 24 years or 23 and change, might as well keep that thing locked between the teeth.
Agreed. And probably maybe even more so now, Tom, just so that there aren't fresh examples for Bill Belichick to turn
100%.
to, right? Whenever stuff starts coming out at the end of the year, whenever they move on from one another. And it's maybe already started with Bill Belichick, in my opinion, not taking full responsibility for the drafting of Mac Jones, for saying organizationally, which was a very interesting word to me. It wasn't myself in the front office. It wasn't myself and Dave Ziegler at the time. It wasn't myself in the personnel department. It was organizationally. That to me almost implies ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Or organizationally, we all felt that was the right thing to do. That's a little bit of leakage when it comes to, if you guys want to think that the owner is involved in the personnel decisions here, especially the ones that appear to have failed, you go right ahead and believe that, because he did nothing to shoot that down when asked about it on the radio the other day.
Yeah. On the other hand, too, shouldn't he be? I mean, we've almost drawn a line in the sand for Robert Kraft where he can't say anything. And it does remain his team, as Bill O'Brien's pointing out. So even if he said, I like this Mac Jones kid, if you got a shot, you're going to take it. Because that's what he does. That's how Kraft communicates with Bill, because Bill communicates with Kraft the same way he does with us at the podium. I swear to God, I've heard that enough times. So that being the case, Kraft is asking questions to get a read on it. He is definitely not telling Bill what to do. Not that he couldn't and wouldn't and shouldn't. I don't think that he lacks the backbone to do so. I just think he has done a great job of holstering his ego, Kraft has, in dealing with Bill.
Do you think there's a part of Bill, though, that would be perfectly okay with it if everyone out there thought that maybe Robert Kraft did nudge him in the direction of Mac Jones? Not asking questions, but, hey, Bill, we're taking a quarterback in this draft, okay? And we're taking one early. I think Bill Belichick would be okay with people feeling as though that might have happened, even if it didn't.
Yeah, I think he would be okay with people understanding that this notion of a collaborative was really trying to neuter me. I don't think the Mac Jones thing would be the greater point. Bill would miss that point because these guys are so immersed in their own Machiavellian bullshit that I think Bill would not understand that in trying to make that point. It would be Bill not pushing back on Mac, but pushing back on the fact that Robert thought that he needed to be neutered and reined in prior to the 2021 season, after 2020, after Brady in 2019. The Kraft really wanted to see collaboration and was celebrating it on conference calls. It looks better down there. Guys are busy. They're together. I love the way it looks. So I think that Bill, less on, hey, look, if Bill Belichick didn't want Mac Jones, he wouldn't have taken Mac Jones. Bottom line. Robert be damned. Ziegler be damned. Public perception be damned. He would have traded down and done whatever he wanted to do.
Taking Davis Mills in the second round. Taking Christian Barmore at the end of the first. Yeah, I believe that too. Because it is his football operation. If he had his eye on the record even then, Tom, if he's looking at Mac Jones and saying, I'm never getting there with this kid, is he really gonna use a first round pick to draft that guy?
I mean, he adores Kyle Shanahan, adores Mike Shanahan. They wanted to take Mac Jones at 2. For an offense, it's an absolute friggin' wagon. Now, I'm not saying that they had pre-draft conversations, but I'm certain that Bill knew that Kyle Shanahan had high regard for Mac Jones. If he had high regard for Mac Jones and he saw what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo, then I'm guessing that Bill would have said, this kid's fine. He'll be fine. He'll be great. Whatever. Not great, but it's all we need. We can win with anyone.
Which is, boy, that would have been put to the test that year, 2021. They might have had to run it back with Cam Newton.
What about Stidrock? Was Stidrock still around?
He was. Yep. And then he did he go to a wedding or something, and then allegedly that didn't go over great. Yeah, maybe Jarrett Stidham, maybe Cam Newton. But boy, isn't it funny now looking back on it? It's almost like the drafting Mac Jones.
Hoyer was still here too.
Yeah,
he came aboard in the trade.
Right.
No, he went to Indy.
Did he go to Indy that year? I feel like I remember. I feel like I remember Brian Hoyer with his arm around a rookie Mac Jones walking up and down the field in training camp. But maybe that was his second year. I don't know.
Huh.
Anyway, I mean, it's almost like how bad would that have? How bad might that year have gone if not for Mac Jones? You know, what if they go 7-9, 7-9, 8-9, like 2 and whatever this year?
You know what? They probably wouldn't have, because you would have had to go another year of Cam.
So maybe 7 wins again?
Yeah, because Cam was, as much as we make fun of his overhand throwing ability, Damiere Byrd had 47 catches that year. You know, Devontae Parker didn't get past 47 catches. in his Patriots career until the other day. Damiere Byrd caught 47 balls from Cam Newton that year.
Unbelievable.
All right. We've gone far enough.
Yeah.
John, Skull Crusher, we've gone far enough.
Far enough.
All right. On that note, folks, we'll be back with you. We got Next Pats podcast is out, Phil, for this week. Any plans?
We're going to get Matty Castle on the horn because he is a Trojan. There is a Trojan perceived to be the best pick.
Trojan man.
Potentially. We're going to talk about some Trojan men with Matt Castle. Caleb Williams, is he worth it? Castle had a chance to meet with Caleb Williams as a member of NBC's broadcast. They broadcast at least one, maybe a couple USC games this year. So anyway, be a good guy to talk to about Caleb Williams.
All right, good deal. Enjoy, everybody. We'll be back with you on Thursday. That's the first phlegm intervention I've had the entire podcast. Good job by me. Take care.